And of course, one stock we continue to watch is Apple after it released a host of new products on Tuesday. But are the devices a big enough deal to support Wall Street's optimism on Apple stock? Rene Ritchie is a veteran tech analyst and joins us now. Rene, really enjoyed your tweets during the Apple event. Wall Street seems to be not that impressed with what was released. I mean, do you think, let's start with the iPhone, what they introduced, will that drive a super cycle?
A super cycle, I think, is hard and fairly rare. I think Apple, based entirely on the amount they've reportedly ordered for the iPhone 13, they're anticipating a quite large sales volume.
They are anticipating sales volume, so they must be anticipating some kind of uptick, right? What do you think is, there doesn't seem to be any killer app. I know that's not the right word, but killer feature, right, of these new phones. What to you is the sort of biggest appeal of the new phones in particular?
So I think Apple's realized they have to play a long game now because people are keeping their phones longer. It's not this new, exciting, emerging technology, but it's really become a tool, almost like a utility. And people don't buy new phones every year. They buy them every 3 to 5 years now. And Apple's leaning into that they're putting really high quality builds into them. They're doing software updates for 6 years. So I think they know that while people aren't buying every year there will be people buying, and they just got to give them a better experience. So this year, the 5G is better, and 5G rollouts are more complete. And cameras, you can never go back in time and take better photos of your kids or your family. So they're always leaning into new photographic features. And then for creatives, I think they put a lot of their wood behind the new depth effect, the new cinematic video options.
Rene, what's the one big selling point you think will get customers out there buying this new iPhone?
I think it's just people who are buying into 5G for the first time. Some people just don't want to be an early adopter, and many people simply didn't have 5G at all in their area for a long time. And now it's more power efficient, so it doesn't hit the battery as hard. It probably has Qualcomm's latest X60 modem in it, and it's just going to give them a much better experience. So when they do have this phone for 3 to 5 years, it'll work on those new upcoming network deployments.
Rene, what do you make of the fact that Apple did not change prices, didn't raise prices on its phones? And also, if you could, talk to me a little bit about the changing dynamic of how people pay for phones, right? Very few people, I don't know the exact numbers off the top of my head, people aren't going in and plunking down $1,000 at once anymore, right? Most people, I think, are financing and paying monthly now for the phone. So how does that change maybe how Apple thinks about pricing?
Yeah, I think that's true. I think Apple had to raise prices on the entry-level models last year because they added 5G and they added OLED displays, which are really expensive components. So those went up by, the Mini went up by $100. The regular one went up by $100 last year. And there was rumors that because Taiwan Semiconductor is going to be raising costs, that Apple would have to follow suit. But Apple's really good at locking in essential components years in advance and managing their prices. So I think they're waiting until they have to, because people are, even though we are paying a lot with carrier incentives, there's really good trade-in programs this year. There are subscription programs where you're basically leasing a new phone every year. People are still sensitive to that initial sticker price. And I think when phones hit $1,000, that was almost not a breaking point, but it was a point of concern for consumers. So Apple's holding it there for a few years before they start testing the upper elasticity of those again.
Are we just expecting too much from Apple, Rene? Is this the same innovative company it was 5 years ago?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the innovations are things that you don't see, are things like making sure that every frame of a photo or every frame of a video gets recorded to their storage controllers, which is not something you can take for granted with most other phones. The same thing, they have a ProMotion 120 hertz display, but a lot of vendors just implemented those willy-nilly and destroyed color management. It changed with the brightness levels. It gave a really poor experience. It reduced resolution. Apple waited a couple of years, but their implementation is really solid. It's so solid it'll change the refresh rate based on how your finger is moving. And I think those are the sort of things, they're not flashy, they're not gimmicky, but they make that day-to-day iPhone experience really different in kind from a lot of other phones.
Rene, finally, I want to ask you about something that didn't have to do with yesterday, and that's the security vulnerability that was revealed a couple of days ago. And aside to Brian Sozzi, I hope you've done your update by now. But I do, Apple has really made a name for itself and has centered its brand on privacy, on security. How big a deal do you think that vulnerability was?
I think most of hacking is an economic crime. It depends on how big your target area and what you're willing to spend. And this is based on Pegasus, which is the Israeli spyware company, and they spend millions and millions of dollars developing these, and they sell them to nation states, and they go after very specific people, usually activists or journalists. And when someone is willing to spend millions of dollars targeting an individual like that or a small group of individuals, it's very, very hard to prevent it. All you can do is react as quickly as possible. Apple's putting technologies in like Blastdoor, which opens messages before you see them. But obviously the scope is just accelerating, and they're going to have to, like whack-a-mole, they're going to have to accelerate at an equal speed.
All right, Julie, I will go out there and do my update. I will do that before the end of the week. Rene Ritchie,
right?
always
Am
good
I
to see
wrong,
you.
Renee?
Yeah.
He's got to do his update.
I'll do it. I'll do it. I'm
update.
on it. Fine. I'm on it. I will tweet you the update there, Rene. All right, Rene Ritchie, always good to see you. Have a great rest of the week.
Thank you.